In life, most transformations happen only after we show a willingness to face our fears, the worst of which, of course, lies deep in our subconscious. That is probably why in myths we so often encounter the image of a descent, a katavasis, physical as well as spiritual. In the story of Jason and the Argonauts, this descent happens as they symbolically enter an ancient world. Ancient, that is, by ancient standards. A world that pre-existed the Greeks and their warrior virtues we hear exalted in classical legends. A world of feminine powers where a great mother goddess representing the earth once stood supreme, worshipped as the center of creation, while the blood from the sacrifice of a divine bull flowed downwards to renew the earth's fertility. In Greece, such a culture can be found in Minoan Crete, a culture that flourished about 1,000 years before the Greeks could sing the stories of their heroes. Jason did not sail to Crete, of course, but to a place called Kolchis in the Black Sea. But that is little more than a detail, because legends work not on a geography that is physical, but on one that is internal, a geography where Crete, with its great mother goddess and ritual bullfights, can be seen almost as a symbol of the deep unconscious, the real place where the hero must descend to get the ultimate treasure, the golden fleece. Come now, Erato, stand beside me and tell me how Jason brought the fleece back to his native lands with the help of love-struck Medea. You, after all, are experts in seducing young maidens, from where you took your name. So begins the third book of the Argonautica, the story of Jason's hero's journey, where the poet, who opened his story with an invocation to Apollo, god of music and poetry, switches alliances midway to ask the help of another, Erato, the muse of erotic poetry. Because what started as an epic will soon turn into a love story, one between Jason, leader of the Argonauts, and Medea, a young witch of sorts, priestess of the dark goddess Hecate, as well as the princess of Kolchis, the faraway land where the sailors have just arrived after many trials. Their objective is the golden fleece held by a ruthless king, Aeetes, who is mostly unwelcome to strangers. And so, vastly outnumbered, the heroes stay hidden in marshland near the mouth of a river, not knowing what to do. Luckily for them, someone catches their sight from above. Hera, queen of the gods, who together with Athena, protector of heroes, devise a plan to make the king's daughter fall desperately in love with Jason, as she is the only one who could assist them at getting the fleece from her father using her magical powers. But since neither of these goddesses is an expert in matters of love, they seek the help of another, Aphrodite, who reluctantly agrees and asks her son, Eros, represented as an unruly brat who constantly put his mother in trouble, to go down to earth and shoot his arrows of desire straight into Medea's heart. Cupid, the winged god of love, flies from Mount Olympus and into the sky, from where he sees the fruits-bearing earth and the cities of men scattered in its vastness, and among them, Jason's ship, stuck inside the marsh, its sailors troubled by the burden of their fate. Down on earth and being totally unaware of what just happened up in heaven, the heroes decide, with heavy hearts, to allow Jason to attempt a difficult bargain with the king. In exchange for the golden fleece, he will say, Jason and his crew offer to subdue the fierce tribes of the Sarmatians, who are still unloyal to the king. Jason presents himself in front of the entire court, which includes a rather indifferent Medea, and delivers his speech to the king, whose royal brow seems as unconvinced as ever. But just then, Eros springs from under Jason's feet and shoots his arrow straight into Medea's chest, piercing her heart, which lights up with the flame of love, that sweetness mixed with pain. But King Aeetes, who is unaware of what just happened, has something else in store. He will give the golden fleece, he says, to whoever accomplishes the following task, which apparently he himself can do every day before breakfast. The hero must tame a pair of flame-breathing oxen, divine bulls with bronze feet and snouts of fire, put them under a huge yoke of solid iron, and with them plow an enormous field. Then, on that same field, the hero is to sow the teeth of a dragon, from where a race of warriors will come springing out from the ground, ready to attack anyone in sight. The first, of course, being whoever planted the crop. If Jason can perform these tasks and come out alive, then, and only then, will King Aeetes give up his golden fleece. Jason's heart sinks deep in his chest in despair, yet he has no choice but to accept. And with his head hanging low, he goes back to his ship and tells his mates what just happened. But as we already know, so much more happened than met the king's eye. And during that same night, Medea is lying tormented in her bed. Half awake, she sees a dream where it was revealed that Jason had not come to call his for the fleece, but for her, and that she, using her witchcraft, managed to subdue the fiery oxen of her father and save her beloved hero. For she was a temple priestess, after all, of the dark goddess Hecate, and the poet tells us that she knew all the herbs that grow out of the fruit-bearing earth. But what is a witch doing in a Greek story? Joseph Campbell was not the first to notice that most Greek myths appear to have been stitched together by the fusion of two separate systems of belief. On one layer, a hero like Jason is typical of the stories found across the Indo-Europeans, the Aryans, as they were once called before the Second World War, the warrior tribes that came out of the Eurasian steppes around the second millennia BC to conquer most of Europe, reaching as far as India, and from whom Germans, Celts, and Greeks alike descend. It was they who brought the thunder gods, Zeus, Wotan, or Odin, together with a number of male heroes who were imagined to conquer lands as they conquered women. But way before these blonde barbarians came down from their steppes, there existed in Europe and the Near East an entire matrix of earth-worshipping, female-centered cultures whose supreme god was not a he, but a she, a great mother goddess whose body was the earth and whose sacred animal was the bull, just like we see in the beautiful paintings of Minoan Crete. In the love story between Jason and Medea, therefore, we not only find two star-struck lovers, but two entire cultures. A sky-worshipping, male-dominant one, represented by Jason, and a chthonic, earth-oriented, female-dominant, represented by Medea. And since history is written by the victors, heroes like Jason became the norm of classical antiquity, while this second Minoan layer was suppressed, but never disappeared entirely. So, one way to understand what is happening is to imagine that Jason's journey takes him not outwards into space, but inwards and into the deep collective psyche of ancient Greece, a culture built on two distinct layers, one Aryan and more dominant, while the other Minoan, pushed down into a lower level of consciousness, into which the hero must now descend. Carrying an entire culture, wow, that must have been one heavy burden on the shoulders of young Medea. who lied tormented in bed. What was she to do? On one hand, she was the king's daughter, and helping Jason meant betraying her father. But then again, how could she witness her beloved hero die, burnt no less by the fire-breathing bulls? Torn in two, she thinks of killing herself and even pulls out her potions ready to drink. But then her mind drifts towards the sun and the sweet pleasures a young girl dreams of, and decides to help. When Father Zeus gave animals their weapons, wings and claws to the birds, speed and cunning to horse and fox, respectively, he left nothing for us humans. And so, without fur and natural weapons, our race was slowly dying. Until, that is, the Titan, Prometheus, stole fire from the gods and brought it down to earth. Zeus, enraged, punished Prometheus by tying him on a rock in the Caucasus, while two eagles tore his immortal flesh by day, letting it heal by night, so they could start again for an eternity. From the blood drops that fell from his open wound grew a plant that makes one impenetrable to weapons for a single day. That was the plant Medea pulled with both hands out of the dark earth, the Titan crying on his rock in agony as if he felt the roots being uplifted from his own guts. That same night, Medea sent for Jason, lying to her maids by saying that she planned to trick the hero by giving him a deadly poison. Yet it was they who got tricked, and together, the whole palace. Waiting anxiously in her temple, Medea sees Jason coming from afar, like the star, the poet says, that rises as if straight out from the dark ocean. At that moment, Medea could have torn the heart out of her breasts and given it to him, but she only gave him the plant and the sacred ritual that he needed to perform in order to use it, asking nothing in return but for Jason to remember her. When the sun rose the next day, Jason presented himself to the king with his comrades on his side. The whole palace was present, and the king was eager to see his demise. Jason was ready, and as the bulls charged straight, breathing fire, Jason held up his shield, his skin protected by Medea's potion that also gave him the strength to pull one of the beasts by its horns and force its mighty head to the ground, where he placed the iron yoke, pulling the other in its turn. After the field was plowed, Jason sowed the dragon's teeth, but following Medea's advice, he hid in the nearby bushes. As the demon warriors rose from the ground, Jason threw a stone in their midst. Mindless, mistaking the stone for an attacker, they threw themselves to one another, slaying each other, until Jason leaped up with his sword and finished the job. The hero was victorious, finally. But wait, what about the golden fleece?